most Nintendo games were trash.
Oh yeah, that's why.
Whoa! I mean, you had about.
He's right.
Honestly, you don't understand how many games were made for the Nintendo.
A lot of them.
So like,
and a lot of
maybe
trash.
30 games were good.
Exactly.
I
That's
have
why
the emulators. I have the ROMs.
We
Like,
talk
maybe
about
30
the
games are
same
good.
games over and over because out of 700 games they made, there was about 30, 35 games we talk about all the time.
I feel like there's a classic tier of NES games, but I also feel like there might be a second and possibly a third tier that's still heat.
But this is coming from somebody that doesn't play video games.
But I did back then, though. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Don't do that. Don't do that,
Jordan
Long.
versus Bird. If you
Don't
play
do
that
that.
now,
Don't do
you'd be
that.
like, this is trash.
All I'm
It's not
saying,
good.
some of them lasted though, right?
No,
the same ones that you know and everybody
Mega
talks
Man,
about.
Contra, Super Mario Brothers 3,
I play Double Dribble right now.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Tecmo
games.
Bowl,
Tecmo
Blades
Bowl
of
lasts.
Steel.
Yeah.
But you know why we talk about Tecmo Bowl and Tecmo Super Bowl all the time? Because those were the only two good every other football game on NES was trash. There was a game called NFL Football, and it was trash.
A lot of them are not good.
John
lot of
Elway,
the
John
basketball
Elway
games
Football,
weren't good.
trash.
The games weren't good
I can't
basketball wise, other than Double Dribble. And then when they started making like the Blazers versus Celtics games,
Those games weren't even. Oh,
That was
Tecmo Super
You're
Basketball,
right.
good.
That was good. Yep. Good call. Good
But there was a
call.
game called Hoops, trash.
Trash.
Magic Johnson's Fast Break, trash.
All of them were not good. Most all of them are not good.
10-yard fight, trash.
30 out of what's the numbers y'all tossed
It
around?
was a whole lot
Over
of
700.
There were 700 officially licensed games that came out for the NES.
Hey, if you, I don't know
Almost
if this,
all of them. Like there's maybe you could say there are 30 that are classics, another 70 that you could like, okay, that's passable. There's about 600 games on the NES. If you play,
I'd love
you would
to see
never
what
want
the
to play
comments
again.
of this. I'd love to see what people. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can name 75
Doubt
elite
it.
NES
No,
games.
I bet there's nobody.
No.
You don't think so?
No, then they're lying. I mean, it's just factually not true.
It's just
Like,
cap at that point, huh?
No, like I have the ROMs. Like I have them all. Like you try to pull up some of these old games that you've even never heard of. And be like, oh, let's try this out. And you make it like
You barely make it
maybe a
through it.
minute.
Yeah, there's
It's
yeah.
just like
no fun,
It's
man.
just like it sucks. Like
There-
even a lot of Sega Genesis games are like that too because
Even Sega?
yes.
it's just
Come on,
like
Mike.
once you started getting
You can
into
tell you didn't play video
Yeah.
games.
Yeah,
I did.
I mean, like-
I did, but not the one. I guess I just played the good ones.
Yeah.
I
You-
guess.
how many games do you have? Maybe 5.
I had more than 5,
Look, man,
but they was all
You didn't
good.
have 75. Let's sit up here and say that at least 70
I'm
games
just throwing
were
numbers
good
out
on
there, bro.
I mean, even now today, not every game that comes out is good because
Nah.
it's there are a lot of really good games. Don't get me wrong, but there's an art to like the creation of it. Back then, you were so limited in what you could do. You had to be really creative.
Right.
Like the Zelda game, the Mario game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game was really
True.
good. A couple sports games, but not very many.
No.
And try to play those sports games now. Like
They don't
it's
carry
just,
over.
It just so happens that they were the best ones that were available. Like
At that time.
they still weren't very good. You know what I mean? And
There was a few games that we actually purchased and might have played that day. It was like, man, we just wasted our money on that game.
That's why.
absolutely.
And you know what's crazy?
I took one of those L's, a couple of those L's too.
In Japan, and this is because they had Nintendo probably knew what was up. They knew a lot of this stuff was garbage. They successfully lobbied the Japanese government, said you cannot rent video games.
Dang.
So they tried to do the same thing here in America, but it didn't work. And so when Blockbuster started, like I would rent games from Blockbuster or this place called Videorama before Blockbuster took over everything.
Shout out to Lee's video.
Man, let me tell you something. You would get a game and you'd be like, I'm stuck with this garbage for an entire weekend.
Yeah.
I wanted my $3 back.
Give me my
Yeah.
$3.
But-
Did you ever try to put it down and then play it again, hoping that it wouldn't be trash, but it still be trash
Once
again?
you figured out it's trash, it's always
But
trash.
this is what's so wild. Since these companies that are these Japanese companies knew that you could rent games here,
Right.
they made the American version of games harder. So you couldn't beat them in 2 days. So that's why a game like this seemed like it's aimed at kids, like the Lion King on Sega Genesis.
Man, that's a hard game.
That's why it's so hard. They intentionally made it.
Super
that
hard.
wasn't Japanese company, but like Castlevania 3 is
Yeah.
way harder in America because they didn't want people. This was a AAA game for Konami. They didn't want people renting it and taking it back, and they wanted you to buy the game, not rent it.
I
for
never
$3.
thought about it like that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
The Adventures of Bayou Billy. It's called Mad City in Japan.
Never heard it.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
All I know is-
it was a game I bought because I'm thinking, oh, you can drive in this game. And
What's
you
the
can
name
use
of it?
The Adventures of Bayou Billy. That game is ridiculously hard. I beat it because this is when you didn't get but 2 or 3 games a year, if that.
Well, Metroid was hard, so that frustrated me.
But at least you had a password for Metroid. You had to sit and beat Bayou Billy in one sitting.
Yeah, he might be the only person I know that has Bayou Billy.
Yeah, and you
I
know
don't
what?
know what that
the
is.
Adventures of Bayou Billy is not in that top 30 of games I'm talking about.
That might not be in the top 700.
I'm
Sounds
about
like
to
it.
look this up just to see if I recognize.
If you've
the
never
video
played it
game
though, you
cover.
don't know.
I mean, but
You don't know.
I have an 8-bit friend. I have an 8-bit friend that might be able to find it, so I can
Basically,
play it. Perhaps.
Adventures of
You can
Bayou
Google
Billy,
it.
they were trying to do like a game, like it was supposed to be like Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Bayou, you know what I'm saying?
Now that I see, that's why I had to see the cover. I see the cover and I recognize
that makes
this
more
game.
sense. Yeah, I remember seeing this cover.
I recognize.
I ain't know who
this
Bayou
game.
was.
I never played it, but I recognize.
You know, that's
seeing this.
because in the beginning of the game, it says it doesn't say Bayou. It doesn't say Bayou. It says Bayou. So that's why I say it like that.
It
Yeah, he
was a-
could have been on Swamp People.
Yeah, that
what
was
I'm
a
seeing on the
computer
cover.
generated.
Yeah, so I'm saying
conversation piece.
I was literally saying it like the computer said it at the beginning. I thought it was so cool. It's like, oh, the game talks.
How much you pay for this?
I remember dropping $39 and 1989 money on it.
Yeah, they got you on that one.
Yeah.
It looked like a fake. What's his name?
Because there's a fighting game segment.
Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly. That's what they were
He's
going
a fake
for.
Crocodile Dundee.
There's a fighting game segment.
My boy looked like a super Troy Landry on the front.
And then, there's a driving segment. And then there's a part where you can use it. I thought I was getting a good value for my $39.99 and
No, he
realized
wasn't.
I was buying one of the hardest games ever created.
This man got on a rope for a belt.
You know what's interesting though? Like back in the renting days, I just took that as I knew when we went to rent video games, I knew that's why we always rented like 2 or 3 because we knew at least one of them was going to be trash, maybe
Oh,
2
I
of
see,
them.
I
So
see.
we would always rent like one that we knew was good,
Yeah.
and then maybe try a couple
Yeah.
others.
And hope to
Little
get
hat
lucky.
trick, see
Always.
if we can get lucky.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
We was
That's
doing the same.
smart. That's smart. Yeah, we used to do
I'm
that.
glad I
That's smart.
rented and did not buy was the first X-Men game for Sega Genesis.
Mm.
Again, wasn't it?
I remember somebody
think I
telling me
played
about
that.
it, but I didn't play it. Yeah.
And then
I was on Super Nintendo.
I got in trouble
Yeah.
because I rented Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Blockbuster had to call my house and tell me, he's like, look, it's time to call and bring that back.
Oh, you was running up that bill, huh?
It was so bad. I mean, it was
All I had to do was just never take it back. It wouldn't have been no way they could have charged you.
What?
no, they would have charged my parents. That's back in the day. If you forgot, they charged you. It wasn't no like, oh, you've had it long enough, now you own it.
No.
Like they do with
Nah, it wasn't. They would just send you something. But I mean, we was paying for stuff cash. How was they gonna charge you?
Oh, because it was in the computer then. Like they could send you the collections.
Gosh.
Well, them people was going to
Man,
show
that
up
was
for that
stuff I
bread.
never took back to Blockbuster. I can get that back in blood.
I would say kids don't, but this don't even exist no more, so don't even worry about
I
it.
did the same thing with Redbox. I rented a couple games.
Yeah, because then after a certain amount of time, it was like, well, you own it now.
Well, what I did would say I took it back.
Oh, you
And
was
kept
one
it.
of them.
Absolutely, man.
Well, you know what a lot of
You never
people
know
was
who
doing?
you never know
I
who you
remember-
sitting by. I tell you.
I rented them. I
You
rented a
know
movie.
exactly.
I rented a movie and I got it out, and it was some Sesame Street. Since they took that little barcode off
Oh yeah.
and just put it back in the box like they were, and kept
put
the
the little
actual-
hologram ring back on just a random DVD. And
I'm surprised
put it back in
Redbox
the
is
box.
still in business.
Yeah, are they?
I still
Do
see
people
him.
use it?
Yeah, you still see people using Redbox.
No, well, dang.
Long you use
God
Redbox
bless them.
Never.
in life?
No. Not
There
that,
was
I,
a lick on the weekend.
not that I can think of. Maybe, probably. I don't know. I don't
I
remember.
might have some old Redbox cases somewhere around the house,
Just at the
actually.
house chilling.
In a box somewhere because I've moved a few times since then.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, like the
Chat
Redbox
is-
thing is almost that's a good 10, 12 years ago.
yeah.
Chat is
maybe even
definitely
longer.
the chat is definitely going against some of these comments. Nightmare on Elm Street was okay. That's Mighty J Young.
It was cool because you could play 4 people on it, so it seemed like it was a lot more fun than it was.
Karate Kid was decent on NES.
No, it
Brother
wasn't.
to the
That
Night.
game was. Go back, y'all.
Kung Fu was.
Go back and play these games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
think
game?
y'all basing it strictly off nostalgia.
There's a
You remember a day you were eating a popsicle playing that video game. That was a great day, and you're just basing it off that, but not them games.
See, I thought Bayou Billy was an NES game. It's NES, right?
NES, yeah.
It's NES.
So there's
Go
a
ahead,
game,
Lon.
there's a game called Return Fire, and
Sounds positive.
I think it came out on PlayStation 1,
I know what you're talking about.
but I also think it was a computer game in the 90s. But the interesting thing about it, because I literally pulled it up and played it yesterday online, because I remember enjoying it so much. It's like you had like a capture the flag game, and I think it is, or maybe it's just one. I don't remember. I thought me and my brother used to play it, and he would be on one side, I would be on the other, and it's like you get jeeps, tanks, some sort of vehicles, and then helicopters, and the goal was to capture the other side, grab the flag before the other person did. And I just remember enjoying that so much. But so I pulled it up yesterday, and in between the cutscenes, like after you would beat a game, it would be like an ad. It would be like I don't know, it'd be like Lou Gehrig. But or something. Yeah, it's just random. It's like a video of Lou Gehrig like doing. But the interesting thing about it is if you hit the start button, it was like an advertisement for 1-800-ARMY or join the army.
Wow.
What?
It was. I was like, wow.
They was out here recruiting on the low.
They
that
were.
was advanced.
Yeah, I was like, ooh,
Look,
okay.
it was like, look, we got to do something.
Hey, that's
Man,
the
they
future.
probably gotta- they
That's
gotta
like a
check for
YouTube
that,
ad
too.
on the low.
I
Yeah.
got to check for that.
Yeah, you know, this is a random game because
I never knew
saw
that.
Diablo 4, which we saw. I saw you playing on
Right.
and like, okay, I might need to get into this. Like there was a game back in the day, and like most people didn't understand it, but it was kind of like resources. I mean, it was a little bit more like maybe Warcraft or StarCraft, but it reminded me of that game called '𝗏𝗏𝗏 on the Sega Genesis. I remember
What
it got
is
bad.
talking
You know
about?
some of the most random video
It
games.
got bad reviews, but like I picked, had the
It
emulators
was one
going.
that tickled your fancy.
It was all right. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, we was like, we just didn't understand it back then because we thought you were just supposed to fly and shoot.
𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Yeah, you had to manage resources, and it was one of those games that you could tell was ported from something on a computer, and they tried to bring it to a console with only 3 buttons.
You lost me with that one, my
Yeah,
brother.
cool.
I'll tell you this, Jay. There's definitely a better game out there that does the same thing than 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's 3.
Sweet. I mean,
Okay.
like, you understand, this is '89. We didn't have anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, but now we do.
I still have, but because those as much as we talk about the Sega Genesis, like that first year or two for Sega Genesis was straight trash. Other than
It was
like,
rough.
I kind of feel like you
Super
was just
Ghouls and
flipping
Ghosts.
through catalogs, picking
On
the
the
most
low.
obscure games you
On
could
the
find
low.
that nobody was going to have.
I remember like Last Battle and Zoom
See?
and all this stuff
See?
that came out that
I have
first
no
year.
idea.
Yeah, I want to let's rent.
Other than Thunder Force 2, Ghouls
What is
and
that?
Ghosts.
You know what
Ghouls
I
and
like?
Ghosts is the only one that I recognize out of it.
I like-
Altered Beast, even when you play it,
Altered
you're like,
Beast.
I know
Yeah.
Altered Beast.
It
was
didn't look the
cool.
same as art. A lot of
Yeah.
them games, once you seen it in the arcade,
Yeah.
it didn't translate the same way once you got it home.
True.
yeah. So
I like Eat the Apple 95. Did you like that one?
Apple.
ETH
I
Apple.
just made it up. Who did
Oh, okay.
Oh.
It sounds like a Jay Moore game.
Jay Moore was like, yeah, Ma, I want to rent. What is it? Eve's Bayou.
no,
Man, see, you can't even tell
you-
do
you-
a
see,
joke
that's-
right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
That's a good movie. Though. Was that a good movie?
Yeah.
Why you say it without passion?
Because that was
Stop
I tried.
there was
man.
no effort there.
Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop it.
C minus.
The Streets of Rage came out. Shout out to Brother Tonight. That came out like 3 years later.
All right, man.
You kind of like remember when Michael Jordan did a public service announcement? He was like, just stop.